Hello, in today's video, we're going to be looking at lesson 10.5, day 2, where we talk about how to find the volume of cylinders. To find the volume of a cylinder, the formula is volume equals pi r squared times height, where pi r squared is the area of the circle and h is the height. So you might remember that for prisms, we had volume equals capital B times h. Well, for a cylinder, it's the exact same formula. The capital B is just the area of a circle, and the area of a circle is calculated with pi r squared. So we'll take that pi r squared times h. When we do volumes of cylinders, we're going to leave our answers in terms of pi, and then at the end, we'll use the pi button on our calculator and round to the nearest tenth. Let's look at this first example. We want to find the volume of each cylinder and write our answers both in terms of pi and rounded to the nearest tenth. The first thing you need to do to use the volume formula is to identify the radius and the height of the cylinder. And notice that this cylinder here is laying on its side. The radius is the radius of the circle. Well, that distance right there is the diameter of the circle since it goes all the way across. The radius is half the diameter, so I'm going to take 24 divided by 2, and that's 12. Then the height of the cylinder is the distance between the circular bases. So because my cylinder is laying sideways, my height is actually right there, the 6. Remember, the height of a cylinder, you can even add that to your notes, is the distance between the circle bases. And now that we have those two values, we can go ahead and apply our volume formula. Volume is equal to pi r squared times h. Let's sub in our values. So pi times 12 squared times h, which is 6. Make sure for order of operations, you square the 12 first. 12 squared is 144. So I have pi times 144 times 6. And you're going to just take your calculator and do 144 times 6, and then we'll put the pi at the end. When you leave your answers in terms of pi, you always want to move the pi to the end of your value. So my exact volume is 864 pi, and that would be cubic inches. To get the approximate answer, we just need to put that into our calculator. If you have a scientific calculator, you might need to put a decimal point in order to force the calculator to give you a decimal answer instead of in terms of pi. So you type 864, put a decimal point, then click your pi button, and the calculator will give you 2,714.336. We'll be rounding to the nearest tenth, which is 1 decimal position. The 3 here rounds down, so my approximate volume is 2,714.3 cubic inches. Let's try another example. Notice that this cylinder is an oblique cylinder, and an oblique cylinder has the same volume calculation as that of the right cylinders that we're used to seeing. So even though it's kind of slanted a little bit, the formula is actually the exact same. Volume equals pi r squared times h, where h is the distance between the circular bases. Now notice that the circular bases, it's not this like slanted part there. It's the height is the 12. That's the shortest distance between the two bases. And then the radius is right there at 8 centimeters. So let's go ahead and plug those numbers into our formula. Volume equals pi times 8 squared times 12. We're going to square that 8 first. That's 64 times 12. And then you can grab your calculator and do 64 times 12, and that's 768. So our volume is exactly 768 pi cubic centimeters. To get the approximate answer, let's just go ahead and type that into our calculator. Remember, you might need to put the decimal point after the 768 before clicking the pi button. That'll force your calculator to give you a decimal answer. And the number that's coming out of my calculator is 2,412.743. We'll round again to the tenths place, so that 4 rounds down. So we'll say the volume is approximately 2,412.7 cubic centimeters. Here's one final example. It's a try now, and then I did add a couple pointers that you might want to add to the things to remember tips section of your notes at the end of 10.5. The height of a cylinder is always the distance between the two circular bases. So you have to remember that, especially when the cylinder is laying on its side. And the other thing to remember is you want to keep pi in your answer until the very end when you are trying to get the rounded answer with the pi button. If you plug pi in early and then you use a rounded number in a calculation, you're going to lose accuracy. So we're always going to keep that pi in there until the very end. I'm going to ask that you try the try now on your own. Please pause your video. When you hit play again, I will have the solution posted. Please pause now. Here is your solution. The radius of the cylinder is 7 and the height is 6. So I plugged those numbers into my volume equation. 7 squared times 6 ends up being 294 pi. And then the approximate value is 923.6. So that concludes lesson 10.5, day 2. You're now ready to complete your 10.5 CYU. Thanks for watching. Bye.